back to Nice for the second weekend of mass protests against the vaccine passport. In this vlog, I'm going to tag along with the vaccine passport protesters and try and find out what makes them tick. All this in the week in which the infection rate here in Nice and this region reached an all-time high. I'm going to ask, what next for France? Just before we get started, quick reminder to hit the subscription button and hit the bell so you receive notifications when new videos drop. But while we wait for the march to actually get going, I thought I'd try and bring you up to date on what's actually happening here. As I say, the infection rate in this region has now reached above 700 cases per 100,000. It's officially the highest it has been throughout the whole of the COVID pandemic. And of course, as we discussed last week, this is why Mr. Macron has introduced this hugely controversial vaccine passport in an attempt to make people get the vaccine. Well, has it worked? The answer is a resounding yes. Almost 5 million people have signed up. Vaccine centres are literally overwhelmed with people trying to get vaccinated. That's if they aren't been ransacked by anti-vax protesters. But the ones that are open are certainly vaccinating. What it means in terms of the figures is we now reached a position where France has double vaccinated over 60% of the population. It's vaccinating at an incredible rate. Almost 700,000 people have been vaccinated on many days this week. In fact, John Litchfield, the excellent columnist of the local newspaper, pointed out this week that at the current rate of vaccination, unbelievably, if it carries on, France would actually overtake the UK in terms of the number of people double vaccinated within a few weeks. I think France is at about 63%, the UK, I think the last time I looked was at about 72%, 73%. So that's an interesting statistic. The implementation of the vaccine passport has had the effect of driving people into the vaccination centres, particularly the young who obviously realise that they simply cannot go anywhere and do anything without either the passport or without having to have a really onerous test before they go into bar, restaurant, gym, etc. And crucially, of course, Mr. Macron is making them pay for those tests quite soon. So that's another hit to the pocket. So here I am today in Place Garibaldi, the sort of throbbing protest heart of Nice, where for the second weekend running we're in the midst of a mass protest against the vaccine passport. Now these protests are taking place right across France. 150,000 people are expected to come onto the streets today. And last week I just saw a brief glimpse of it, but this week I thought it would be interesting to try and tag along with the march and try and work out what makes these people tick, because what fascinated me last week was that I didn't view them as the usual suspects. I couldn't just write them off as cranks and conspiracy theorists. I couldn't just write them off as sort of Marine Le Pen supporters or Yellow Vest Movement supporters. It looked a much more diverse, and I have to say quite a middle-class crowd. Now obviously with my linguistic skills being quite limited, I'm going to have to find people who can speak a little bit of English and hope that the camera survives and I survive these encounters. Let's see what happens. So tell me, why are you on this protest today?
I'm in this protest today because they want to force us to get this vaccine, and I'm against this because I own my body. I don't want anyone to force me to do any vaccine. We don't have enough information about this vaccine. It's still in a phase where they're experiencing this vaccine. In the United States, they just figured out a few days ago that the people who got this vaccine can give it to someone else. So why do they want us to...
But they always knew it was, you could still, I know people who've been double infected, but that's not a reason not to vaccinate, is it? I mean, you will definitely not have the vaccine.
No, I will not. I was thinking about it before they forced us to do it. But as soon as they obliged us to do it, I decided not to do it. Because after all, it must be my choice after a period of reflection.
Right.
So no way they're going to oblige me to do this
So it's
vaccine.
very much for you an issue of freedom to choose and the rights of the individual.
Yes, we are mature citizens. First, we inform ourselves about this vaccine, and then we see and we make a clear choice. Make a choice.
Yeah.
But they cannot decide for us. We are not a bunch of child.
Right.
We are citizens. We have rights.
So tell me why you're on the protest.
We protest because we think you have to make choice. You have to talk, and I think we have a lot of media who talk like propaganda. You know.
Right.
Sorry for my English. It's not
No,
very
no,
good.
I understand exactly.
And we can talk easily. We don't have choice. I don't want to speak about not vaccinated.
Would you get vaccinated or?
I'm not vaccinated because I don't feel it, and I read a lot of things, and economically, I think it's a really it's amazing. It's une escroquerie en français, une escroquerie, I think, and they need to solve a lot of vaccine, and they don't care about us. They don't care about us. I don't want this world for my girl, and I don't
Your
want.
daughter.
Yes, a daughter for my girl, and.
So politically, where would you put yourself? On the left or the right?
I'm not politically because I think it's a big theater with a mediatic enjoy with people. They are actors for me. Actors. They speak a word. The reality is economic. It's not about with black, with white, with Chinese. It's not this thing. We are poor guy and we are rich guy and nothing au milieu.
So it would be fair to say you've lost faith in the system.
Yes, yes.
I am here today because I don't want to be vaccinated now, straight now. I want to wait for treatment. I know in France Sanofi is going to, I think,
That's the French vaccine.
to create voilà, treatment, not a vaccine.
Oh la la. Hang on.
Voilà. So at the moment, I don't need for my job to have the vaccine. So
Right.
I prefer to wait. Voilà.
Right.
I mean, I
And
don't.
why do you trust the Sanofi more?
Sanofi, it's a laboratory in France.
So it's French.
Voilà, it's French.
It is absolutely fascinating because the three people I spoke to there are elements of what they say that I agree with. I am not a great fan of the state controlling everything we do, and I get their argument about apartheid between those who've been vaccinated and those who haven't. I have very little sympathy for the idea that the vaccines have not been tested. I'm quite willing to accept that 10 years down the line we may discover there has been some horrific mistake made, but will waiting another 6 months make any difference? And what is the effect of millions of people actually having COVID, having serious COVID as opposed to mild COVID, which I think there is absolute proof the vaccines are reducing and preventing, and they're reducing and preventing death. So I have absolute sympathy with these people's right to protest. I 100% agree with that. I defend their right to protest as long as they defend my right to disagree. But it's very interesting because there is a mix of what I would say is a coalescing of different causes here. And from what I understand, this is what happens on many of these marches. It happened in the Yellow Vest movement. Yeah, people from the left, people from the right, people with no political allegiance at all, or so they claim. But it's certainly going to be very interesting. My guess is that as the holidays kick in next week, that this will be the peak of these protests, that this is not going to become like the Yellow Vest movement. I think you'll see quite regular protests. It's getting louder. But you know, you have to put this in perspective. The French love nothing more than a protest. It's a Saturday sport. There were 2 marches like this here today, 11 and 2. If you can't make the early one, come for the late shift. Come for the second sitting. Anyway, what is going to happen in France and what does this mean? Well, the mask rule has technically been brought back. I'm just checking there's no traffic going down here. I think we're meant to be wearing masks outside. I have found not a great deal of adherence to this. Certainly plenty of mask wearing inside, as there has been throughout. Whether they will crack down on the mask wearing outside, I don't know. Certainly you're meant to be doing it in crowded areas like there, but I imagine there are quite a few people on that march who are not particularly keen on masks either. It's going to be fascinating going forward. I think with the infection rate as it is, and of course infection rates don't matter as much as they did because of the rate of vaccination. But I think with the infection rate as it is, it's likely that hospitalizations will obviously continue to rise and there will be further restrictions on life placed without doubt if the hospitals get close to overwhelmed. But don't forget, in the spring, France had up to 30,000 in hospital and it still didn't introduce a full home lockdown. So I don't see us going back to lockdown, but I do see us possibly heading back towards a curfew. But of course we've still got the ludicrous quarantine, Amber Plus blah 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 in Britain. I've said before, nobody can have a clue as to why this has been imposed. The beta variant's on Reunion Island, or as Dominic Raab said the other day on the radio, an area of France, the Reunion area of France. He made it sound like it was just around the corner. It's 9,000 kilometres away. It's about a bit like saying somebody's got a cough in the Falklands. Anyway, apparently that is what caused the Amber Plus classification for France. The beta variant is far higher in Spain, but I bet you they don't make Spain Amber Plus. You know, we still have the bafflement of that. Next week it's possible, of course, they remove France from the Amber Plus, but they might then put it on the Amber Watch list. And it's a bit of a joke, isn't it? You can't help thinking that sometimes the British ought to be a bit more like the French. I mean, they do protest about anything, but they do like to protest and they do like their voice to be heard. And in a democracy, that has to be celebrated. Anyway, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this vlog. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, hit the bell for subscriptions. Another vlog coming in the week, all about Airbnbs in Villefranche and what great deals you can get right now. Take care, keep smiling, keep vaccinating. Fingers crossed, it'll be over by Christmas.